Now we're going to take a look at how to create a flight plan and load it, and then load an airway in Pilot versus Foreflight. So first thing we're going to do is just enter the destination and arrival airport. So KBJC. I'm going to use a flight plan that I fly quite often from Denver to Atlanta, Peachtree, DeKalb. So here we go, loading up KBJC to KBDK. Now the first thing I normally do when I'm going somewhere like this is I'll look. If I haven't been there before, of course I have my favorites, but if I haven't been there before, I'll go look at the routes. So looking at all the routes, is one nice thing about Foreflight is it gives you a graphical overview of what all these routes, what all the possible routes that folks have taken when they filed and have been cleared there. So the first thing I normally do is I'll go look and see, okay, what are routes that have been filed up high that, I fly a Turbo Bonanza, so I normally fly to the, going east, I fly up in 18 to 20,000 feet, coming back west, I stay lower to grab the tailwinds going east and stay out of the headwinds coming west. So I'll look for piston aircraft, and I see, there's from 18,000 feet to 19,000 feet, there's a plane 9 departure Goodland trends. This is actually me. These are the flights that I always file. So I'll go ahead and select that, and that'll show up now on the flight plan on the map. So if I'll take a look at this, and if I'm not happy with it, then of course you can change it. So here's one of the other nice things is if I can go into the procedures, I can go into departure, and I can see a graphical list of all the departure procedures. This is again very, very nice because you can see, if the procedures weren't listed, I could see, hey, I'm flying east. I got the EPKI 5, plane 9, Xtan 5, Eon 6, ME 6. All of these departure procedures are valid for me, and so I can choose amongst them if I wanted to file one, and I didn't see one. So we'll go ahead and choose a different one here. I'm going to choose the EPKI 5 Gatter transition and add that. So it's very easy to choose and add different departure procedures. Of course, anytime we're doing this, we need to take a look at the procedure to make sure it applies to us. So I'll go hit show and plate, and now I can see, I purposely chose this one because I knew it didn't apply, but here it's a turbojets only, so I know, oh, I can't fly that. And the other nice thing is there's this NOTAM indication, so if I bring it up and see something there that, I can see if there's a NOTAM available that applies to the departure procedure, and I can see, the takeoff minimums. They have notes about obstacles, blah, 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 but I've got the NOTAMs available for the procedure popping up right there. So I know this isn't going to work for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and change the departure back to the plane 9 departure Goodland transition. Oops. Change departure. Plane 9 departure Goodland transition. There we go. So here's the plane 9 departure Goodland transition. One thing that happens quite often is ATC Airborne will give you reroutes. And so one of the things that like for example here, let's just say the Bison MOA was active, and so ATC had to reroute me. So in this case, they'll give you an update, ready to copy, and they'll say, cleared Victor 180 after Goodland, cleared Victor 132 Hutchison, then then as filed. So in this case, I would go to load the airway. I would go insert after the Goodland transition. Victor 132, have to type that in, and it's highlighted red to let me know that that's not a valid because I don't have an exit point. So insert after Victor 132 Hutchinson. There we go. Now I've got a valid flight plan. It filled in all the points, and life is good. So this is how you would do the filing, and of course for the arrivals, the same thing there. You get a graphical representation of the arrivals. So if you wanted to change the procedure, you could do that. Again, nothing to see there. It's just the same. So that's loading an airway and creating a flight plan, and in Garmin in Foreflight. While we're here, real quick, one of the other nice features of Foreflight is it'll tell you the winds aloft that are available. But the drag is that unless you subscribe to Foreflight's Performance Plus plan, you don't get to choose a performance profile. You can only choose different speeds. So like, at 19,000 feet, I know I'm 200 knots, a little bit more. Normally, if I'm trying to stretch fuel, I might slow down a little bit, but it's 200 knots. But I can't choose performance based on altitude and temperature. I have to calculate it, and I have to plug in the speed itself, and then it will tell me once I've chosen a valid departure time. It'll tell me the estimated time en route and fuel required to get there. Now let's take a look at the same thing in Garmin Pilot. So with Garmin Pilot, same exact situation. We open up the flight plan tab. This is the exact same way we would do this in Foreflight, KPD. One of the other nice features that you do get with Pilot, though, is this filtered list of waypoints. I can either type find in here to find waypoints and add them, just like that, or while I'm typing it in, it'll filter up in the list, KPDK. So if I forget what the waypoint is, I can type it in while I'm typing. This is really useful when you're typing in, fixes. Like if I knew I was going to go to drop, there's drop showing, droop. I could hit the droop waypoint and so on. If I knew I was getting cleared to a like, I can bring up, typing it wrong, Dally. I could choose the waypoints and have them filtered there. So nice feature. But so now it's the same thing though. So now I'll go into the routing, and you can see here's the different routes. Now one thing Garmin Pilot does that Foreflight does not do is it'll sort by aircraft for you. So I can see here, first entry is actually me. Nice thing about flying a Beechcraft is B comes before C. So B36 shows up as the first plane, and hey, that's me. So I'll go ahead and select. I can also sort by altitude though, date, whatever I wanted to. My search criteria, but the Beech 36, that's me, and I, again, for the same reasons, we look what routes are planes that are similar to mine normally flying, this one, so we'll select that, and I hit cancel, gotta quit doing so I load the route. I hit cancel out of that on accident, so I load the route. Now same thing happens here. What if I want to load the airway? Well, to load an airway here, it's a little bit simpler. I just hit load airway. I scroll through the list, find the airway that I want, hit Victor 132, scroll through my list to find my exit point, and I'm done. No typing, the only thing I have to do is scroll. And this is really nice when you're airborne because, if you're hitting turbulence or whatever, your finger doesn't come off. You don't have to worry about mistyping. You just scroll through the list and select what you want, and it's just, I can change it, do anything I want. Same thing with departure procedures. So now I can go ahead and change the departure, and this is one area where Garmin lacks pretty bad. I don't have. It shows me all the transitions, but we don't have the graphical overview. So I can go and change the procedure, no problem. I can change, plane 9 Goodland, no problem. But I don't get that graphical overview that we had in Foreflight. But one thing we do have quite a bit of that's really nice is the altitude profiling. This is a standard feature in Pilot. So I loaded a profile for my aircraft, and in that profile, sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. In that profile, here's my plane. I go to performance, and I got my cruise data, climb data, descent data, and here's my climb data. It's literally a chart. And I have the same thing entered on flightplan.com as well. I've been using that for a while until Garmin came out with this a few years back. But literally, you put in your altitude, airspeed, and fuel flows for the different percentages of power. You enter the power setting, and now you've got a temperature versus altitude versus power setting set of performance data. Now, once that's loaded in, and it's very easy to load those, I can go into my flight plan, and now if I go to the altitude, you'll see that it's taking into account my power settings. So if I go here and change my config, I normally fly as fast as I can because time is more important to me than fuel. But let's just say I wanted to slow down to 75% to stretch the fuel out. So I go 70, or because it's a hot day. It's a hot day and I know I can't push on a cold day, good conditions, I can hit 17 gallons an hour. On a very hot summer day where I might be ISA plus 10 or 15, even at 19,000 feet, I know I'm not going to be able to push that much fuel. So let's just say it's 75%, and I know I'm only going to be able to push 15 gallons an hour. Now I go back to my profile, and it will automatically account for that. I don't have to change anything. the fuel burn and speeds. The true, you can see the true airspeed went down 10 knots because I'm slowing down, pushing less fuel, and so I can see the altitude effect. So I can find the best altitude to fly at to give me the best speed. So I know here actually, higher is still better in this case. A lot of times, especially depending if there's a temperature inversion or something, you may find the winds shifting as you climb higher. In some cases, actually, it's better to be a little bit lower to avoid winds. But Foreflight or Pilot will do Foreflight will do the same thing. It will show you this table. It just won't take into account your engine settings. You have to tell it the speed, and then it'll calculate all of this table for you, unless you pay for the subscription for the Performance Plus plan. And that cost of that subscription, since I'm not paying, since it comes for free with Pilot, that subscription cost, I do want the performance-based profiling, but since it comes standard with Pilot, basically Foreflight is paying for my Garmin subscription with the Performance Plus cost, since I don't pay for the Foreflight performance cost. So that's what it takes to load a flight plan and load an airway in Garmin Pilot versus Foreflight.